When it comes to your elevator pitch, if you're not on fire, you will lose to someone who is. Let's talk a little bit about the elevator pitch and how you can increase your strike rate, shorten sales cycle time, and increase your average order value. But sometimes your elevator pitch fails. Why might it fail? Well, often that's down to your inadequate product and market knowledge, a lack of preparedness, or just your selling skills are lacking. You're just in old school, so you're too pushy, you're not listening, and you're just not earning the respect and the trusted advisor type status that you need to win more pitches than you lose. There are high consequences and there's a high price to be paid if your strike rate is only around 20 or 30%. What does it cost you? Well, if it's that low, there's a huge cost in terms of time and effort and money. It's also not great for the ego. It's a constant worry and your credibility begins to head south. So there's a lot riding on your pitch. So a good place to start is to be conscious about who is in the room. Typically, whether it's 4 people or 12 people, they have distinct roles and responsibilities. And the first one, of course, is what I call the treasurer. And they're the people that might just have a ledger for a heart and know the cost of everything and the value of nothing. But you've still got to work with those people and you've got to bring them with you. A second type of role and function is very often the implementer, and that's the person that has to work with you, and they have to evaluate how easy is it going to be to work with this particular supplier. Thirdly, then, of course, you can have what we call the evaluator, and that's the person with the line straight down the page, pros and cons of doing business with you as distinct from doing business with another provider. And then you're a coach. And that coach is a very important person because they have brought you in and they can give you the heads up before, during, and after. But the trick is to ensure that you've got good solution dynamics for them, that there's joined up thinking all round. That's really what you're after. Now, for joined up thinking all round, you've got to appreciate that buyers typically are woven in doubt, inertia, and fear. And you've got to cut through that with rational and emotional reasons to buy from you. And to do that, you've got to be aware of the anchors that are in all buying decisions. And they relate to things like economics. Okay, the cost of working with you as distinct from another provider. That's one key factor you've got to address if you want to walk in the shoes of buyers. A second one, of course, is their strategy, not your strategy. How well do you tie in with their strategy and their objectives for the year or subsequent 5 years, whatever that may be? A third one is the risk they're taking of buying from you as distinct from somebody else. A fourth one, of course, is all related to this fella here, which is compliance. How well you comply with their regulatory bodies in terms of quality and standards. And lastly, politics. How can you maneuver within that restraint or constraint? And buyers have teams now that are very conscious of cozy relationships between providers and buyers. And some of them are using pitch doctors, particularly in the world of advertising. They use them quite a lot. So you've got to work with all of those factors to ensure that you've got every chance of increasing your strike rate. And to get over those burning issues, you've got to be really thinking in what I would say smart school now as distinct from old school. So what we're talking about here is your role, goals, strategy has got to get away from being just a supplier and all about winning the sale and account management. And you'll get more doors opening for you if you're into 2021 and beyond. So your thinking is really quite different. You're not a supplier, you're a strategic partner. It's not about winning the sale, it's about winning the customer. It's not about closing the next deal. It's about helping the customer succeed and achieve their goals and objectives for the year. It's about account development as distinct from account management, and you're more of a farmer than a hunter. Winning new business, of course, is always important, but the smart players ensure that they grow the existing business as much as they possibly can, so that they become a kind of an advocate with the supplier, and they're given referrals, and the supplier and buyer have just a great working relationship, and they come back time and time again. And that's really where you need to get to, which means your model of selling probably needs to be turned on its head. It's got to go from really spending time in this particular approach, where most of your time is spent on the gift of the gab and some fancy footwork. The lion's share of time is in that space, and the last piece of time about building rapport. Shift all that on its head, folks, and look at it this way. So 40% of your time is spent on building rapport. Put the buyer in the driving seat. Now, that might come naturally to you, or you might need to work on it. Don't assume it's going to be there from the off. I remember coming back from a project in Sydney, and I was to meet a buyer in Emirates in Dubai, and I was told by the coach that had set up the appointment that the buyer loves rugby. And I said, great, well, I know a bit about rugby, but I don't know that much. So in Sydney Airport, I bought a couple of rugby magazines and just studied them on the flight over. And I spent probably a good third of the meeting with that guy talking about rugby. But that put down the foundation for what was to follow, which was the diagnostic side of things. I spent a good bit of time on diagnostics. So essentially seek first to understand before you hope to be understood. Then make your case in a confident, in a sense of authority, sincere and empathetic way by being a solution provider, building the business case for choosing from you as distinct from anybody else, shoehorn in your made-to-measure value proposition there, which is authentic relevance, which just cuts it very nicely. And then the bump in the road, which is the final stage of getting across the line, should be less cumbersome, and you should get through it, which is the one piece we hate about selling, but it's the one piece that should be a little bit more straightforward for you. All right, so that's the right way of doing things. Just to help you with that, my friend John has a terrific book on business-to-business selling, and this is a quote straight from the book. Okay, what is at your center of gravity in terms of putting your message across and making your case is a robust value proposition. Why choose from you as distinct from anybody else? And that really develops from the inside out. So what you've got essentially are clarity around a molded feature, benefit, and proof points, all captured very nicely in a wheel, perhaps as an illustration or graphic relevance of this. And your features is what it is, your benefits is what it does. Features are statements of fact, benefits are statements of value. So we provide blended learning, and the benefit for you there is it's very effective because it's a hybrid of whatever. Yeah, and don't just take our word for it. This is what a previous client in the same business of yours thought of us when we came across and we delivered a similar program for them. So independently validated feature benefits are key. It just silences the cynics. So develop your value proposition or your value wheel, and that helps you sell outside of price, which is all very, very important. And your VP is the minimum expected from the buyer. Otherwise, you're just giving them too many choices, too many options. Okay, so in a nutshell, folks, here's 5 key takeaways to ensure your strike rate has a higher probability of going north rather than south. First of all, get your buyers to fully engage at all stages. Help the buyer to buy. Buyers love to buy, but they hate to be sold to. Number 2, Speak the language of the 2021 buyer. And the language is addressing all of those particular factors we mentioned earlier on: strategy, risk, compliance, and so forth. Number 3, of course, is become an expert or a trusted advisor. They come to you with all types of issues that they want your angle on, and that really puts you in a very, very strong position. Fourthly, as well, then be sure that your VP is robust. And be absolutely crystal on it, how it's tailored and molded as a solution to their particular problems, issues, and needs. And then lastly, it's about serving and not selling. Develop accounts and not just manage them. 2 in every 5 employees say their employer is unclear in terms of the value proposition. Scary.